and it made me feel really good.
And that's how Republic Bank helps their customers go from living to thriving. Learn more at republicbank.com. Member FDIC.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler, and I've spent years on these roads, and safety isn't a slogan to me, it's real life. That's one reason I trust Volvo. Quantrill Volvo has been part of this community for years. Brentley and Mark are friends of mine, and they run the dealership the right way with care, integrity, and real respect for the people they serve. If safety, smart design, and peace of mind matter to you, start your search at Quantrill Volvo. We have the XC60, the hybrid. We love it. Best car we've had in 43 years, and it is really smooth, and we're saving money on the gas. Right now, get financing as low as 0.99% APR for 36 months on most 2026 models. Visit QuantrillVolvo.com. See dealer for details.
Back to No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler. Podcasts on Apple, Spotify, and Google, Monday through Friday.
Welcome back. Alan Cutler, 1300 AM, 92.5 FM. Sharp shooting guard from yesteryear. Boy, that sounds like a shot, but I actually mean it with respect. Probably didn't come off that way. Jim Master, kind enough to join us from the 1980s. Jim, how are you, pal? Can't hear you. There's probably a little button. No, it says your audio is off. That red line is coming across. Now it should work.
Is we working yet?
Bingo.
Okay.
Bingo. So here's
now I'm doing better. Now I'm on. Okay.
Now I'm doing better too. Here's my deal. I'm sorry. I've hit a wall. I've just hit a wall. When I was a kid, I remember looking up that Wilt Chamberlain averaged, I think it was more than one season, but at least one season over 48 minutes a game. There's only 48 minutes in an NBA game, but with the overtimes, he averaged more because he just didn't come out. And they used to beat the crap out of him like they beat the crap out of Shaq and stuff like that. Tell me I'm wrong. I looked up, I looked every single one, but I'm not going through every single one. I don't know if you saw Acuff last night. Oh, my gosh, I want to be his agent and retire a second time. He had 49 points. Jim, he only played 50 minutes. Brazil, he only played 46. Okay, Philon, who had just an unbelievable game with 35 points as well. He only played 41 minutes. Allen played 44 minutes. You go through the list. It's unbelievable. Nickel from Vandy's going to make money in the pros, 35 minutes. Tanner for Vandy, 37 minutes, 27 points. Josh Hubbard, 35 points in the first half. And by the way, Jim, you tower over him, okay? He had 9 rebounds and 46 points. By the way, it's nice to see that Travis Perry started and he had 8 points and played 23 minutes. And another kid for Old Miss played 40 minutes. Here's my point. Tell me I'm wrong. Please explain this to me. I'm pulling my hair out. These kids in February should push themselves because you got to push yourself to get in better shape and handle more minutes if you need. This fatigue and load management, that Pope says, I'm sorry, it's driving me out of my freaking mind.
Well, yeah, now we did have the other night, Chandler played 34 minutes, Owe played 35, Aberdeen played 32, Marina played 29. I agree with you, Alan. You got to play. What I wrote down about last couple nights ago, I wrote down a few things. And since you're talking about minutes, not being disrespectful, they're pros now. They all get paid. We've had this discussion before.
Yep.
When you start who we start, and then Coach Pope and his staff looks down at the bench who's going to go in next, no disrespect, but it's a short bench. They've tried to give minutes to Noah. Let's be honest. Brandon Garrison has not had the greatest of years, just being honest. We're missing players. That's what we're doing here. Short list. Jasper Johnson's probably your best, he is, your best offensive threat to come off the bench. And he's a freshman, and he was 2 for 8. But my point is, not a whole lot to pick from there. So they are playing a lot more minutes up front, Allen, Aberdeen, and OA. But the other thing I noticed, our foul shooting, who would have thunk? We were 12 for 20. Our turnovers were 15. Georgia's were 9. We're playing in Rupp Arena. Our defense was lacking and has been sometimes when we played poorly. It was lacking again. And when you talk defense, Alan, you should put a slash and say effort. So those are the things I see, which is quite a bit. I think we might have come in, hate to tell you, little overconfident. All right, we're back home. We're going to put somebody away. And if you're thinking any of that, usually you're a half step slow. So disappointing, extremely disappointing to get beat again at home. Extremely. They're going to have to do something that they've done in the past. They're going to have to surprise us and play better. They're going to have to, they have to win some of these games coming up. So they have to get better.
Let me throw a couple things back at you.
Okay.
I harp on free throws more than any other person with a big mouth, maybe in the history of broadcast. It's just my thing. And it became my thing, and I say this, and I really don't like saying it. I've said it many times. Nazi was 0 for 6, and I love Nazi. In a championship game, he's 3 for 6. There's no overtime. That shot that Epps hit would have won the national championship. Not blaming Nazi. You got to hit your free throws. You just got to hit your free throws. And I harp on it. They're at 60%. Here's my point. Stay with me, and please, Jim, we know each other well. You will be quick to tell me if you disagree, correct?
Right.
All right. It's 81-78, 117 to go. Kentucky, calling play, out of bounds, all that kind of stuff. My thought at the moment, if they hit the free throws, Kentucky might be up 1 or 2. Might be. And it's a whole situation. Suppose it's 81-81. You call a different play. There's different pressure. There's all that kind of stuff. And I'm throwing free throws, 12 or 20. It's awful, 12 or 20. My Mendoza line is 75%. If you can't do 75%, and they've lost games this year, and the position of do things in games. The free throws are my absolute unequivocal number one thing. That's one. The second thing, let me throw back at you. They are playing many more minutes than earlier. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. But here's my point. When Pope is talking about finding a way to limit their minutes, that's the part that drives me. I almost slipped. We're having a conversation, and I realize it's already, even after all these years, I almost said a bad word. It drives me crazy. Oh, he's a big, strong man. He's a big, strong man. You can push yourself to extend those minutes, and he plays defense too, and I get it. It's part of it. Can you imagine Joe B telling you load management?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't like that because I like to play, and I played a lot of minutes back in those days. A lot of minutes, my junior year and sophomore year, played a lot of minutes. But to Owe in particular, Alan, I don't mind. He plays so hard on both ends, and I think he's trying. No disrespect to him, he's a great player. I think he just gets frustrated and tries to do too much offensively and dribbles off his leg once in a while. I think that's because he's trying to do too much. No, but back to him, Alan, I think they do need to rest him. Hold on, but not 5 minutes. A guy like him, I don't mind you bringing him off and giving him a minute because he is playing so hard on both ends. But back to my original point, our bench, Alan, when Coach Pope looks down there, they're not a very long bench. And let's be honest, a few of them aren't playing well. So now it's a real short bench. I think that's I know it is. That's a lot of our problems. That's what I see.
And I agree with you. That's overcoming injury, and I'm not ripping these other kids either. I'm
right.
You played with some players that on another level would have been really good, but they weren't good enough for Kentucky to get a lot of minutes. Again, no disrespect for the guys that you played with. There's no question about it. And there are kids now playing that, if everyone was healthy, wouldn't take their warm-up jackets off, and that's not being disrespectful. I promise you, neither one of us are being disrespectful.
That's right. That's a great point.
So because of that, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm with you. Always plays hard on both sides of the court, which is beautiful.
Yes, he does.
But if Pope is suggesting openly with his mouth that he needs to find more ways to take minutes away, and he's not saying a ton of minutes, a few minutes away, then that tells me he thinks it's a problem. And I'm saying, you know what? What do coaches used to do? There was a big star that I can't remember who it was, but when he wanted to come in the game, he'd look at his coach, and his coach would just look the other way.
Right. Yeah.
And last thing on this, and we need to move on, but I want your opinion on it. I really think last year when he talked about, they put the thing on the chest and your oxygen goes down and stuff like that. I actually think it's a limitation. I think you're putting something in the kid's cranium that after 4 minutes, coach says I'm not as good, so he's going to take me out instead of saying, I got to push through it. Let these kids push through it. Jim, go look at I looked at every game in the SEC last night. So many kids played over 35 minutes. It was crazy. Now, with the Alabama game, okay, you're talking about, one of the great games, and Akoff played 50 minutes, and that's unusual. But he played 50 minutes.
I hear you. I think it really stems, though, too, on who he can bring in, Alan. I know he's saying, I like giving a few minutes rest, not 5. When I came out, too, I didn't want 5 minutes rest. I'll take 1 or 2, get a breather. But I think it stems from who can he bring in and who can bring in and be a spark. He's given all these young men opportunities, my favorite line, opportunities. I think Jasper's a kid that has talent and could come in and score. He's got to get better on defense. I don't think I had to get better on defense. So, and Garrison's been a disappointment. I don't know. So I think it stems a little from that too. Who can he bring in and spell him for 1 or 2 minutes? That's my theory. Foul shooting, just wow. I mean, you're right. People don't realize 2 or 3 foul shots at the right time, Alan, changes the perspective of the game. Keeps them closer, doesn't have to shoot a 3. I agree with all that.
Are these kids lacking confidence when they're shooting 12 of 20? Come on, you were a great free throw shooter. Is it a confidence thing? You tell me. Usually
it is. At this level, it's usually confidence. They got to have their routines. They got to have their, I'm sure it's confidence. Need to get back to thinking, just their routine. So they take some of the stress out. Routine, boom. But let's be honest, 12 for 20 is in major college basketball. Kentucky is on your home court, Alan. Is pretty much unacceptable, right? So, but again, this team has come back from adversity. I expect them, Alan, to come back in these next few games, and let's see what happens. They've done it before, but they need to do it again.
Look, I have said this a million times. Each game is a chapter, and if you're playing 40 games in the season, there's 40 chapters, and one chapter might have nothing to do with the next. And so will it surprise me if these kids come out and play much tougher against Auburn? Will not, by the way. Will not.
Right.
Will not. So I'm not down on them saying, well, because of the other night, oh, my gosh. I can't tell you this. Jim, you've been around forever. You bled for this place. You've given up your pocketbook for this place. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember a season? And I've been racking my brain. And very often it's in the moment. You think it's more intense and all that kind of stuff. I don't ever remember a season that was more ups and downs. And ups and downs are part of Kentucky basketball because of the greatness of the fans and everything. And the world's coming to an end. Oh, it's the greatest. I had people coming at me after the last game. It's time to fire Pope. I couldn't believe how many people came at me. More than I expected. You've won a certain amount of games. This really stunk. Okay, now you want to fire the guy? That's not the point. I'm not suggesting that. It's not even my thought process. But the point is, Jim, you've been here forever. Do you ever remember a season in your memory that had so many ups and downs?
No, it's a good point, Alan. When's the last time we've lost? I'm sorry. When's the last time we've lost this many home games in Rupp Arena? I think there's never been a year that we've lost so many games in Rupp Arena. That just tells you how unique the season has been. Again, can't get gloss over it. They've had 3 injuries, 2 major ones and another third one, and the bench is short. That's my theory. And yeah, they got to get tougher and see what happens on the defensive end, especially, I think.
See, my take is, and this is negating if you have to try to win 4 games in 4 days in the SEC, and you can't play 39 minutes and do that. Maybe you're Superman, but that's like close to impossible. And maybe you bounce out of the SEC tournament, which could give you more rest for the NCAA tournament. I'm not going there. But the point is, if you look at Owe and say, hey, look, here's the deal. Before the first TV timeout, you're not used to coming out. You tell him ahead of time so it doesn't get ticked off. You owe Owe that. I'm probably going to take you out about a minute before the TV timeout, and I might not put you in until the first ball stoppage on the other side. So I'm going to steal. It depends how the whistle blows and stuff like that. Could be a minute and a half, could be 2.5 minutes. And then I'm going to do the same thing if I think you're tired or I deem to around the 4-minute mark. Just a minute here, minute, instead of going out for 4 or 5 minutes and that kind of thing. That's what I would do. And then, boom, you're going back in. Or how about this? I got one more, and then I'm going to shut up. And this is respect, because you had earned respect, always earned respect. The other, I read his body language. I don't know if you were at the game I was watching on TV. Jim, I'm old. The 9 o'clock games are too old for me. When he was taking him out in the second half, I read his body language that he was ticked coming out, that he didn't want to come out. And I got to tell you, if you're Owe and you're the star, it's okay for to say, Coach, I'm okay. I'm okay. Because he was a little bit on the roll. Now he sits down and you get it's no different for me. Last one, Jim. It's no different for me that your ace pitcher, and it's the 7th inning, and he's thrown 98 pitches. And they've got it so they don't want him going over 100 pitches. You know how baseball is and all that kind of crap. And he comes out and he puts his hand up to him. I'm good. I got it. Well, I'm going to trust him. He's my best pitcher. You got to trust athletes, and so always should be able to say, and others too, but Owe in particular because he's a stud. And tell you that, hey, Coach, I don't need a blow now.
But he's the coach. In that instance, I think he's good. Coach does usually tell people that. I would think you would tell that all the time. When you take a good player out specifically, no. You need a break. I'm going to get you right back in. I agree with what you said about the timeouts. They do all that, I think. But Owe, he does dribble. I mean, he tries to do too much sometimes. Believe me, he's a great player. Maybe he just needs to sit down for 30 seconds. And a Coach Allen would tell him that. Hey, I'm just sitting here. Just get your breath. Take a drink of water. Watch the game for 30 seconds. A lot of time that does I swear it really helps you usually if you just tell the player. You're going right back in. Just have a seat for a second. And he's the guy, no doubt about it. He's got to be in there most of the time. But he does need a break, Allen, once in a while to gain his thought, gain his composure.
Why do you think he tries to do at times too much? And I'm not ripping the kid, because the kid since he's gotten it back together, getting healthy and then getting in shape. The kid's had a great season. So if somebody thinks I'm being negative towards him, I'm sorry. That's not where I'm coming from. But nothing is perfect. Certainly not me. So, when he dribbled the ball off his foot, that freaked me, because it looked like he was rushing himself. And I'm thinking, of everybody on the team, he should be the last guy rushing himself. No, Jim?
Well, yeah, but again, I think it stems from, I'm not saying he's right. He probably is right. Where's his help out there? He's the guy, Allen. Every game, he's the guy when it gets in his hands. I'm sure he feels like, I'm going to do it. I can do it. And if I don't do it, unfortunately, who's going to do it? Yeah, Colin Chandler from the outside. Who else is going to do it? So I think he takes it upon himself, Allen, because he is a great player. On both ends, I may keep repeating. Mm-hmm. I just think he tries to do too much, takes it on himself. We need some help, Allen. He needs some help out there. Colin's been doing well. I'm still a big believer in Aberdeen, and his stats look okay, except for foul shooting. He was 4 for 7. But I'm a believer in him, too, because he plays hard, Allen. Aberdeen and Owe play at a high pace on offense and defense. That's why I believe they can still turn it around. That's why I believe they have great games. So we'll see. But giving him a rest once in a while for a minute or two, I'm a fan of that. Get his composure back.
My other pet peeve, and I was hard on this last year, and now it's driving me even crazier, especially since Colin is shooting so well.
He is, yes.
Can you screen or double screen for him? This is not a very good screening team, and it wasn't a really good screening team last year. And the last time Pope was on with me live, which he'll probably never do again, and he turns everything towards the positive. So I said, hey, Coach, this is not a very good screening team. And he went, we need to get better at it. He diffused me so quick it wasn't even funny. But I'm looking at bodies. Look, you wouldn't want to run around a screen in your prime from Mo Diabate, right? You wouldn't want to run around a screen in your prime from Garrison. I mean, and one of the greatest pound-for-pound screeners in the history of the NBA was Little John Stockton, who would set screens for Malone. I mean, Their form in screens. I could teach screening. Really, I'm serious. Maybe I couldn't teach free throw shooting better than they do it. I don't understand when you have a talent like Colin. They don't help him out.
Yeah. Two things. I think you're right. Screening's an art. Screening takes toughness too, just so you know, because you can get the heck not out of you when you screen. But I agree with you all on that. One other thing though I'll mention on Colin, it's up to him to get open too. And Oway can get open on his own, right? Aberdeen probably can get open. They're great athletes. So Colin has to take some of that on himself too, to make the right cut, to come off the pick the right way. There's a true art in that, in getting open. So I go both ways on that. I think you're exactly right, but I think you got to go. I guess, Alan, here's the way I say it to people. When someone set a pick for me, I was going to get open because I knew I was going to shoot. So you learn to give them the head fake, give them the butt, and come off that screen. And I'm just saying there's an art to getting open as well.
I agree. And I think Colin is better at it. And I think he'll be much better next year. And I don't know if I threw this at you in the previous conversation. Please tell me. I have a theory about him. He's not great at using the dribble to create space. Reed Shepherd, for anybody in the NBA under 25, notice I'm not saying Seth Curry and somebody and those guys. For under 25, he is the best in the NBA, and he was pretty good here, but he's just gotten better because he's worked on it at using the dribble to create space when there is no space, and then he jumps over people. Well, Colin can jump over people. If it's me, I call up Shepherd and I say, I want to work out with you this summer because whatever the hell you're doing with these dribbling drills, I want to do. And if he could come close to where Shepherd is dribbling the ball, he could be an All-American. I'm serious as a heart attack because Shepherd, you watch him and he's like, there's no space there. Oh, and he's got shoulder moves and this moves and that moves and slight hesitations, whatever. You really got to watch Shepherd, all the things he does. I think Colin could learn that. He's not good at that yet, but it's a maturation process.
Right.
Do you bet if he could learn how to dribble like Shepherd?
Right. 100%. I think Colin's got a huge upside to him this summer and doing whatever he does, whether he plays or does drills or whatever. So, yeah, I'm 100%. And remember, he set out for 2 years, Alan, before last year. So, huge upside. I'm a huge fan. Great concentration. I was going to use a board there. I'm not supposed to. He has toughness. He is not scared in the moment. He's got a chance to get way better this summer, way better. But I agree with you. Needs a little tricks to him. He could be some type of player next year.
You know, I'm trying to watch, and it's tough to see from TV, even if I'm at the game, whether upstairs or downstairs. It seems like now he talks to the fellas on the team as much as anybody.
I would agree. Yeah.
Last year, obviously, he's not going to say a word. 2 years in the mission. He's in a different part of the world, different society, literally from what he's used to. He really changed his whole life to come here versus what he's like in Utah. And so I get it why he didn't say a peep. And then a little bit early, he said a few things. Then he went into slump. And then when he started shooting well, he talks all the time. He yelled at Pope when he got that technical foul, which I didn't think was a technical, but neither here nor there. I mean, can you imagine him doing that? And Pope probably took it. Coach, what are you doing? You see, threw his hands up or something like that. So this is a future captain if he stays.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a big fan of his, 100%.
So I have no crystal ball. I've given up. I really have, Jim. I think Georgia wanted the game more than Kentucky because their backs were to the wall. I think Kentucky got a little soft, which sometimes happens when you've tasted success. People can say, well, it shouldn't be that way. Well, they're athletes and they're human beings and it's human nature. You agree with that?
I do agree with that. Again, I think they came into the game a little overconfident. Yeah, whatever word you want to use.
Yeah, and I'm not going to rip the kids for it because I think it's human nature.
They got to come back. They got to come back and be ready to play.
Here's the point. When you played, and it happened to you guys too.
Yeah.
Can you adjust during the game, or are you at such a mental disadvantage? It's a difficult thing to do, especially when the other team is exerting so much confidence and energy.
I think it's very difficult. I know people don't understand. When you don't have the fire in your belly going into the game, it's usually hard to turn it around unless something really – because preparation, getting ready for the game, getting mean and tough in practice, all that works right up to it. If you aren't doing that for a few days, thinking it's going to be an easy game, tough to do when the game starts. Very tough to do when the game starts.
Last one. Goose this morning with Tom Leach. And it's interesting, the kindness of Goose versus me. You know, Goose says the same thing, and we used, although if you ever hear him in the postgame show, he's really, because his heart is on his sleeve, and he's really, really strong. He said this morning that the team, he needs to see a tougher-minded team. My take is, there are times, not all the time, because that's not true and it's not fair. To me, they were soft the other day. That doesn't mean they won't be tough against Auburn. And I hope they are for their sake, but they were soft. Auburn sees it, and you know they're going to try to push Kentucky around. That's what I would do. That's what you would do. So you agree with Goose, or you think the way I turn that word, because I like the other word better?
Well, I think you're both right. Think about it, Alan. We've shown crazy toughness at Tennessee.
Yep.
Here against Tennessee.
Yep.
Hold on. Against Arkansas on the road. We have shown crazy toughness. Again, I'm going to say, I think this game, by the way, they came back and competed at Florida. Florida's a heck of a team. This game, I really do think they're overconfident. It just didn't have the fire in their bellies. It's unacceptable, but it happens, as you say. So I think we'll see the toughest. They have shown great toughness at times. They just got it. By the way, Alan, you just got to do it every night. I'm just telling you. In this league, in major college basketball, you got to do it every night. So that's what I say about this last game.
So I'm still open-minded that they can still have a really good season.
I am too. But again, they better start immediately. And they're going to have to come up with some really good wins on the road now to get really going. And here's their chance. They got a couple on the road coming up. So,
I know it's not the next game. You're supposed to not look ahead, but the game that matchup-wise that concerns me more than anything is A&M with the buckyball. The pressure stuff like that, and how they pressure and stuff like that, and pressure hurt Kentucky's point guards just because of the situation. And I know he's looking at that, but I'm looking at that. Well, they could win this. Well, they might drop this. They win in half the time. How it goes.
One game at a time. They got to win the next one. They got to be dogs in the next game.
Jim, always appreciate your time. Sorry for stepping on you. Anything else that was in your Kentucky cranium that we didn't exhaust?
No, I just believe in him. I believe in Pope. I believe in his staff. And I'm really true. I can't wait to watch the next game. I think they'll show something with a lot more heart. Yep,
I agree with you. Hey, I always appreciate your time. Bless you, dude. Have a great day. And happy free throw shooting.
There you go. All right. Thanks, guys.
Sharpshooting Jim Master, kind enough to join us with his analysis. He's spot on. Really good stuff. Always really good stuff. He was, you know what? Every time he comes on, I can picture that baseline shot he hit against Louisville in the big Kentucky-Louisville game when the pressure was on. I just think of that shot. I'm sure he thinks of that shot too. You talk about the Kentucky-Louisville game when they hadn't played in 8,000 years and that kind of stuff, and he had to make that shot, and he did. And I can tell you, if you decide to go to Blue Law Self and open-minded to acupuncture and Chinese medicine with needles, it can be a beautiful thing. Ramon Carriega, a dear friend, check him out. Blue Lotus Health on Versailles Road, not too far from the radio station. Now also providing a licensed massage therapist, hand pain, arm, neck and shoulder, low back, pain in general, metabolism, myopathy, neuralgia, autoimmune, breech, infertility, parasites, low energy, confusion, headache, dizziness, seizure. There's all kinds of things, and there's others that he can do to help you out. He just can't. We've become dear friends. He's crazy smart, and I know he can help. I believe basically anybody. Blue Lotus Health, 859-533-0914. That's my experience. He's helped me. That's all I can say. My experience. 859-533-0914. Alan Cutler, Chip Rupp in the On Deck Circle. Alan Cutler, 1300 AM, 92.5 FM.
No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler, brought to you by Quantrell Auto Group. QuantrellForLife.com.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler. Have a no filter comment? Hit the text line, 859-381-1313. 859-381-1313.
My name is Terry Schultz, CEO for the Rutherford County Area Habitat for Humanity. Republic Bank has really been a game changer. They have invested not only financially, but time to really listen so that we can move our mission forward. What I like about Republic Bank is they've come in asking, what are your needs? And I don't know that you get that any other place.
That's Terry's story. Now let's get to work on yours. Republic Bank, time to thrive. Member FDIC.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler, and I've spent years on these roads, and safety isn't a slogan to me, it's real life. That's one reason I trust Volvo. Quantrill Volvo has been part of this community for years. Brentley and Mark are friends of mine, and they run the dealership the right way with care, integrity, and real respect for the people they serve. If safety, smart design, and peace of mind matter to you, start your search at Quantrill Volvo. We have the XC60, the hybrid. We love it. Best car we've had in 43 years, and it is really smooth, and we're saving money on the gas. Right now, get financing as low as 0.99% APR for 36 months on most 2026 models. Visit QuantrillVolvo.com. See dealer for details.
W223CV Lexington.
ESPN Sports Radio 1392.5, WLXG Lexington, and LM Communications Broadcasting Station. The only no-filter sports show in Kentucky. It's the Alan Cutler Show with award-winning TV sportscaster Alan Cutler.
The press was distracting for us for sure. We ended up playing on our heels, and it was actually hard for us to kind of establish anything other than early in the half court, because we just, to be honest with you, our lead guards did a poor job going back and demanding the ball so we could get into a familiar space. We just did a poor job.
Did a poor job, and as I mentioned with Jim Master, I know Buckyball is a number of games away, but a great point guard putting pressure on is going to give Kentucky trouble, because Aberdeen is doing a very serviceable job, and I think a very good job, but he's not a true point guard, and his professional life, unless he gets much better, probably not going to be a point guard. I guess his problem will be he's not tall enough to be a shooting guard in the NBA, but we'll see what happens. Guys grow and develop, but that's a problem, pressure. And Chip Rupp, kind enough to join us. Chip, if you're the Auburn coach, you look at that tape and going, we're going to push those guys around. We're just going to push them around. And let's see what they call. Push them. And at times, Kentucky's been tough against the Tennessees and the Arkansas, and they were soft against Georgia. Agree, disagree? What say you, Mr. Chip Rupp? Thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. No, you're spot on. I can't really explain, except that they're not maintaining from game to game the intensity. They've shown they have it in a couple games, Arkansas and Tennessee, as you mentioned. But then, and this is kind of poking fun at myself, I mean, where can you go to, when can a Kentucky team go to Nashville, battle Vanderbilt, and say we were out physical by Vanderbilt? I mean, that just doesn't happen. And the other night, we just totally got manhandled. And I think that's just lack of being prepared mentally for the game that you're getting ready to face. And they're going to have to shake that off, because coming down the stretch here, there's maybe one potential sure shot win, and that's going to be on the road. And then the rest of them are going to be a battle.
Yeah, I don't even know about sure shot anymore in this league. I guess last night I hit the wall. Akoff plays 50 minutes, only scores 49 points. And I'm not going to list every player, but I went through every single box score. There's a whole lot of players played more than 35 minutes. No, I'm not going to go and listen to every coach talking about post-game and stuff like that. I'm tired about hearing about fatigue. I just don't want to hear it anymore. I want to hear about fatigue. I don't want to hear the Kentucky coach talk about, I need to find a way to get these guys out of the game a little bit more. First of all, you're the head coach. Either have an assistant remind you, which happens, that's part of it, or just do it. We have to find a way. No, do it. You're the head coach. You're smarter than I am. Do it. This is a simplistic thing. But I really believe, starting in last year, when they wore those things in the chest and they figured out, well, after 4 minutes, your oxygen goes down and I think you're implanting in these kids' craniums that after 4 minutes, they can't do it. Instead of saying, you know what? You go down after 4 minutes. Go harder. Fight through it. Get better. I think his style has permeated their craniums and said, well, coach says after 4 minutes, I'm not as good. Instead of saying, oh, I'm not as good after 4 minutes. Well, I'll show you. I want to play more, so I'm going to put. And I don't see the push hard. And I think it's a negative implication, whereas Pope played his ass off. He played really, really hard, pardon my French. I don't get it. And you know what? Always should be able to play 38 minutes, even though he plays both ends as an athlete. He's a stud of an athlete. He should be able to do it. These other guys should be able to do it. I'm just sick and tired of hearing this. I really am, Chip. Enough. You don't hear the Mississippi State coach talking about that. You don't hear Cal talking about that. You don't hear the Alabama coach talking about it. You don't hear the Auburn coach. Stop.
So you always ask me when we wrap up, do you have anything else on your cranium that you want to get off your mind? That was what I wrote down. We're at a point in the year, we have 7, 8 games left, and before tournament time, we can't worry about load management. We can't worry about analytics. We got to play the guys that are performing, keep them on the court. Otega Owe was the one guy the other day that just was putting the team on his back and was going to try to keep us in the game. He and actually Colin. And when Otega was on a heater, all of a sudden they sub him out and put Jasper in. And there's only one or two thought processes there. It's either, okay, I believe in the analytics and I want to keep Otega fresh for later in the game, or I'm hearing some of the outside noise. I want to make sure that I get some of these guys minutes in hopes of retaining them for next year's team. And at this point, we can't do that. I mean, I love Jasper Johnson, but the last 2 games, he has not produced. His minutes need to be minimal, and we got to play the guys that can perform. And that means keeping the Colin Chandlers, the Oways, the Aberdeens on the court as much as possible.
The guys that came off the bench, generally speaking, did not do a good job defensively, and it created a hole. Now, in Jasper's case, it might not be true, but if everyone is healthy, Noah wasn't going to play this year. A great kid, but he wasn't going to play this year. To me, the guy who's the most disappointing player in the team is Garrison. I can't figure how you can be that big and that strong and not – he's played a couple really good games, but not be as effective. But at this point in time, I think you got to tighten the bench. And as Jim Master said, and as you said, it's a short bench. We all know it's a short bench, but you're now putting kids in. Like Arkansas had to play 2 kids who really haven't played all year because they ran out of players, with that 117, 115 game. You really can't play a couple of these kids. At a certain point, it's not being mean. And that doesn't mean a couple of these kids might not be wonderful players at other schools. Okay, but this is Kentucky. You can't have it both ways. And you need to take care of your main 5 or 6 people and limit it tremendously even more at this particular point. You got to draw a line in the sand. And if somebody gets mad, they get mad. If they end up leaving because you can't play a kid to keep them around. That's a stupid thing to do. You got to do what's best for the TEM. I just get frustrated when Mark Pope says, I got to find a way to get, some minutes away from, Owe and a couple of the other guys. Just drives me out of my mind. You don't hear Cal saying it. You don't hear Alabama saying it. You don't hear Auburn saying it.
No, well, you referenced Darius Acuff in the game last night. That was one of the best games I've seen all year. It was truly unbelievable. What a great effort by Darius Acuff. Oh, and by the way, 2 days before the game, he was in a boot. So that kid, rolled up his sleeves, was mentally tough, and he battled for 50 minutes and had a whale of a night. We have seen that Calipari is willing to even make the tough decisions. Last night, you saw DJ Wagner play significant minutes, but when his team is fully healthy, DJ's not playing that much anymore. And you know how close he is to Cal. I think to your earlier point, I think right now we have enough of a body of work that we know who is going to perform reliably, and we've got to trim the bench and get down to a 7, possibly 8-man rotation that plays significant minutes and limit it to that. And let's really try to refine this thing coming down the stretch because, the facts are we have some tough games left. If we drop 3 of those games, 4 of those games, it's going to have an impact. It may put us in a position where we need to win a game or two in the SEC tournament. And the bottom line is it's not time to give up on these guys, but that was some major slippage the other night, losing to a Georgia team at home. That is not a very good team. Mike White is not a juggernaut of a coach. And he just came in and said, look, you guys are playing for your NCAA life. And they played harder. That's what it was. It wasn't more skilled. They just played harder.
The other thing that Georgia had, and to me was as obvious as the nose on my face, they are, and I'm not ripping the kids on the Kentucky team, but it is what it is as far as I'm concerned. Athletically speaking, Georgia is so far superior. Everybody they had on the court could really run, could really jump, and also had quickness and mobility left and right. Some of the kids were making threes because it was just bad defense by Kentucky. And some of the kids who made threes, it was because they were quick enough to dodge the UK player and get to a spot. It was a combination of both. And you tell me, when, I don't mean to put it in a negative way, but you weren't the quickest guy in the world. And I was a lot slower than you. You okay with me saying that?
I am. Well noted.
Well noted. I'm smiling, Chip. So when you went against a guy, for example, one of your teammates, I don't know why I'm thinking about Greg Bates, but I can picture the shot he made, kissed it off the glass to make this, win the state championship against Carlisle. I'm sitting courtside. It was great. He was a hell of an athlete. If he was 6'8", 6'9", I said back then he'd play in the NBA forever. I'm sure you had to guard him. I mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're a college player, and if Bates was 6'8", we both could have been his agent. The point is this: do you ever get intimidated when you're playing against an athlete that is far superior to you, and he's quicker than you? And I think it affects you mentally. And I think that was part of the reason Kentucky had trouble. I'm not saying they froze, but I do believe it's in your head that this guy is better than me because that guy is. And that quickness and speed of Georgia, I think, also hurt Kentucky.
Well, I would sure hope that if you're wearing Kentucky on your jersey, you're not showing up for a 9 p.m. game on national TV and intimidated by anyone. So I hope that was not the case. Granted, they were incredibly athletic. I remember, I think it was in the second half, Malachi caught a ball down low, turned with like a baby jump hook, and one of their guys just threw it into the end zone. And that was an eye opener because, it's hard to block one of Malachi's shots, especially when it's like a half hook. And this guy came out of nowhere and just threw it. And so they were incredibly athletic. We know how athletic Cyril is. Dominic Wilkinson is a heck of an athlete. So I hope it wasn't that we were in awe of their athleticism. But yeah, I mean, I really can't comment much more about it. I don't know if that. I would find intimidation by them being more athletically gifted is a stretch.
Yeah, let me take that word intimidated back if I can. I said it, but let me take it back. Being the bad basketball player that I was, I often went against guys that were much, much quicker than me. And I kind of knew I was in trouble. I didn't feel intimidated, but I knew I was in trouble would be a better way of putting it. And I think when you know you're in trouble, it didn't stop me from playing really hard. I played really hard. I just wasn't any good. It didn't stop me from playing hard, but you do know that it's difficult to keep the guy in front of you. And in a long game, it could wear you out. I think that Georgia got a few buckets just because they were athletically gifted, and the guys that they were beating, they knew it. Not intimidating. Please allow me to take that word back because it just was a bad choice of words. I don't do that often, but it was. But I do think it affected them a little bit, and it can affect you and not be intimidated. That's what I was trying to communicate.
Well, I think if you're playing a more athletic team, it can affect you. But a good team makes adjustments. I mean, you just can't mail it in because you walk out and the guy across from you is a lot better. If that's the case, I would have never gotten to play more than one game because most times they were more athletic. But you have to be able to adjust, adapt to what you're competing against, and figure out a way to perform. And I mean, in that game, they got easier buckets because they played harder. They ran the floor harder. They shot an exceptional percentage, which has nothing to do with athleticism. Statistically, they shouldn't be able to hit that number of threes in an empty gym, playing against no competition. And so I can't explain why that happened. Everybody says, well, Kentucky is your Super Bowl and you're playing in front of a bigger crowd. And I don't really buy that. So I can't attribute I can't speak to what attributed to that increased performance shooting the three ball, except Wilkinson returning and he knocked down a few. Um, I mean, I really just think it came down to effort, desire, focus. Defense was atrocious. And I think we subbed out the hot hand at times that we didn't need to do that. And I think we just took a little bit of a step back. There was a little bit of slippage. The good news is we have several more games to get it right.
I've been harping on this since the game. It's 81-78. Kentucky trails 1:17 to go in the game. They're 12 for 20 at the free throw line. If you hit 75%, that's 15 of 20. And that's, to me, the Mendoza line of mediocre. I'm just saying, if Kentucky had been tied at 81 and you have the ball, it's a totally different feel. It's a different situation. Pope might call a different play. The strategy might be different. And so with all the other things that they did wrong, trying to overcome their quickness, trying to overcome the fact that Georgia, we all believe, wanted them more. I haven't talked to anybody that didn't think Georgia didn't want it more. And I'm not ripping Kentucky, but that's just part of life at times. With all that, their damn free throws, I think, was pivotal above everything else in losing the game. And I'm just a hard you-know-what about free throws. I always have been. I don't expect them to shoot 90%. Let's not be silly. But you can't shoot 12 of 20. You just can't shoot 12 of 20 in a big-time game like that, in a big-time situation on national TV, and I don't know how to fix it. And when a team goes 12 for 20, Chip, I really believe – now, okay, maybe a couple guys aren't good free throw shooters, okay. But I really believe when you're 12 for 20, you have a confidence problem. And that, to me, that exposes a confidence problem. Instead of saying, hey, there's a free point, I'm going to go and knock it down. And I think that permeates the whole team. I just do.
No, I agree with you. I mean, your mindset should be, look, this is a 15-foot shot. No one's guarding me. I've shot this my entire life. This is going to be a free couple points. And I think now it's become a mental issue for these guys. Going back to early season discussions you and I had after the first handful of games, you expressed concerns about free throw shooting. And at that time, I dismissed it, said I've been to practice a couple times. It's a good shooting team. They'll figure it out. And I stand corrected. We're sitting here at the towards the end, latter part of the year, and we're not shooting a great percentage, and that will cost you in big time games, and in the tournament that can cost you advancement. And I think it's become a mental issue for them. And now the challenge you have as a coach is you can emphasize it a great deal, spend a lot of time in practice shooting it. And most likely, they probably hit a pretty high percentage in practice. But the fact that you're emphasizing and hyper-focusing on that one aspect of the game ingrains the mental issue. And so when they get into the game and everybody's there on the foul line, the tendency to shoot it a little long or short arm one, and it manifests itself.
How often do you think it affects your defense after you've missed a couple free throws, whoever it is, and the team gets down and whatever? Do you take a slight pause? Does it make you kind of like lose a little gumption?
I think it affects each player differently. I mean, for me, because I was a really good free throw shooter, if I missed a 1 or 2, or God forbid missed 2 or 2, I would be super energized defensively to make up for it. Every player is different. They may, if it's really in their head and they miss it, it can bring them down a little bit and cause them to not put as much energy out defensively. I think it impacts each player differently. But I can tell you this: I mean, Mark and his staff, if he sees them missing free throws and then they're duplicating the issue on the other end by not defending, you got to get them out of the game, get somebody in the can.
Yeah, we talked to Sean Woods about it. Jimmy, how long is that clip about what would happen under Pitino? If it's not a minute long, let's play it, because I'd like for Chip to respond.
It's 28 seconds.
Okay. Sean Woods was on the show yesterday, and so we were talking about free throws again because it's one of my pet peeves. And I said, what would Pitino do? What would you do in this kind of situation? Here is Sean's response.
I mean, I remember what Coach Pitino used to do and what I used to do, because I took pretty much everything that he did. I mean, we would have sessions, first of all, he'd get us real tired in drills or whatever, and then we'd have to go shoot free throws for 10 minutes while we're tired. And then he would bring us back after practice at night, and one group will shoot for an hour, and then the next group come in and shoot for an hour. But it's got to be that, because as well as I do, tournament time comes down to free throws.
Really good comment. And look, I have no idea what Pope is doing. Maybe he's doing that. Maybe he's doing more. Can't throw anything anybody's way when I don't have any idea. But what would you do? And are you guessing, this is a bad way of putting it, are you guessing that they're stepping it up? Because I think free throw shooting has been a problem this year. They're shooting much worse in the SEC as they were in the earlier games with bigger pressure and stuff like that. What would Chip Rupp do?
Well, first of all, I think you can rest assured that they're focusing on it because Mark and his staff are so analytics driven. That's a glaring deficit. You can't get around it. And so I think they're probably hyper focused and working on it. Early in the year, to Sean's point, you can run guys, get them a little fatigued, get the heart rate up, and then send them to all the baskets in the gym to shoot free throws. Some coaches will send a group of 2 or 3 there, shoot 2 free throws and rotate so you're stepping off the line. What I would like to see is more game type scenarios. So, they're doing something up and down the court, they're fatigued, and all of a sudden they just call out one guy and send him to the line. And he has to hit 2 free throws or the whole team runs. There's going to have to be something that replicates making that a priority in a premium on performance, or not only he'll be penalized, but his teammates will be penalized for his lack of ability to perform. It's got to be something like that. You can't just send a guy to a line and say shoot 10 free throws and then rotate, because if you don't get off the line, you get in a rhythm and you can knock those down. So I think it's going to have to be up and down the court, stop it, hit a free throw, back up and down the court, stop, a scenario such as that. And I think Mark probably realizes that, and I think Mark is probably doing that. And we saw an improvement in the team's performance about how they started the games after starting every game with a double-digit deficit. He mentioned before one of the games that they were focusing more on starting the game, ending the half, and how they end the game. So looking at strategic periods during practice. And as we all know, there's like 4 critical time periods during a game. First 5 minutes, last 5 minutes of the first half, first 5 minutes of the second half, last 5 minutes of the game. And the rest of it just kind of blurs between. And so when they started adopting that into their practice regimen, we saw a bigger improvement. So hopefully they're doing something along those lines with regards to free throws.
You have a love for UK, especially with your grandfather's name downtown on the arena. You have given so much to UK. You care about UK much more than sports. Is this troubling to you? If it is, to what degree? I don't know what's going on, but Lars Jorgensen, the former Swin coach, there's a lawsuit about some accusations of sexual difficulties. We'll just leave it at that without getting to it. And that's an accusation. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty. Then you have an assistant track coach for distance runner, DeVries. And then you sent me something that I didn't know, that just on campus, there's another accusation outside of sports, something on campus going on. And there have been some other things as well. Is this a real concern, or is this something you say, oh, well, when you have this many students, you're going to have some of these problems? To me, one such potential incident is a huge problem. Just as somebody who loves UK, do you have any feelings about that, or what should be done? But it's one thing when Pitino has a couple assistants that he finally admits he deserved to get fired because they did wrong things, not in this light, in a different light. Then you have over 500 athletes that Mitch Barnhart is responsible, and you have 2 coaches that we know of have accusations. And let it be said, don't sue my you-know-what accusations. Is this a topic of concern? And I'm going to shut up after this because I want you to go. Is this something where I think most people behind mics like mine don't talk about? They can't talk about it because there's lawsuits. Everybody's got to shut up and stuff like that. But are we not paying enough attention to this, not only in sports, but on campus? And I know this is not a campus show. Just your feelings as somebody who loves the University of Kentucky.
Well, I think I want to be respectful and delicate about how I answer this. And I usually have a strong opinion, but with regards to this one, I don't have enough visibility to the true details behind it. All I've seen is the media release. So it's really hard to speak in detail regarding any of these subjects. What I will say is, let's just talk about college athletics in general. If you have an issue like this that's real, that's been documented, people have been terminated because of it, it has to be addressed because it involves student athletes, both male and female sometimes. And so, based on what I know, I think that the issues have been recognized, at least the ones in the athletic department. I think they've been addressed. And without having further visibility to all the details behind the scenes, I can't speculate more. But what I can say is college athletics in general, I just don't think that you ever want to have scandals or issues like this prevalent in your university or your athletic department.
Okay. Just wanted your thoughts on that. To me, this is disturbing. We both have daughters. And I think anybody who has a daughter, I often will be a little more sensitive. I'm not saying if you don't have a daughter that you wouldn't be sensitive. So please don't go there. But I think there's a different level of angst when you see something like this. But this is me.
And here's the last thing that I'll say. In this particular situation, I have a daughter that was incredibly close to one of these situations, was never implicated. So I want to make sure that you understand she was never treated wrongly by anybody, but was incredibly close to one of the two situations. And so out of respect for some of the people that have been implicated, I'm just pulling back on it.
Okay.
But no, I don't. You don't want your son or daughter to be ever in a situation that could harm them in any way.
My point of bringing this up was I think it needs to be out there a little bit more than it is. And by the way, I have no inside information. Let me say that. I have none. And even if I did and I had to keep my mouth shut, I would. There's a fairness in that if I say I got to keep my mouth shut, but I have no inside information. And these are just accusations. And I'm not going to use that line where there's smoke, there's often fire. I think that's enough in people's head, but I just thought it was worth a couple minutes to put it out there because I wonder how many people are cognizant of some of these things that potentially have been going on. Hopefully I said that so I don't get sued. But
so let me ask you this, Alan, and let's try to kind of flip the script.
Sure.
So these issues exist, and they can be a lightning rod. If they're being addressed, does the university or the athletic department, should they rush to escalating it and shining more of a spotlight on it if it's being addressed for the purposes of us to know more?
No.
And so that's kind of where I land on it. If it's being addressed and it's not being dismissed, then, it's not necessarily for public consumption. Now, however, if it's being disregarded and it's not being addressed to kind of brush it under the carpet, that's a totally different situation.
I agree. And I have no knowledge either way. And I would hope it's being addressed. And I would guess it's being addressed, but I have no idea.
And I can't speak to it either.
Yeah, all good. All right, let's end on an up note. I hope this conversation didn't push you to the wall.
My face turned red because it's a delicate topic to deal with, and because of my feelings for a lot of the parties involved in the university, it's just a touchy subject to kind of put me on the spot.
Is there any reason why you believe now? Talk about not stopping on a segue, going boom. If Kentucky had handled Georgia well, and then handles Auburn well, I think there would be folks, and I might be one of them, say, this is potentially a Sweet 16 team. I'm drinking water. Maybe I should put something else in my water. With everything that's going on now, I do believe it's possible because every game is a chapter. If you play 40 games, there's 40 chapters in the book. it wouldn't surprise me if they get their act together and do very well. The problem is I have no feel because it's been up and down. My last point to you, Chip, you've been following Kentucky basketball since what year?
Well, I was born in 1966, so I would assume that I've been following it that long. My recollection goes back to 71, 72, something around there.
Okay, so your recollection starts basically with Issel, Pratt, and those guys.
Yes.
Okay, so in all that time, because I can tell you in all my time, but you have a lot more experience. And look, everybody knows Kentucky basketball is up and down, up and down, up and down. You win, it's great. It's bad, but I have never, in my experience covering this team, seen such a dichotomy of highs and lows. The world is falling apart. Fire Pope, which I've never been on, and there's no hidden message there. But the highs and the lows, I've never seen anything like this in a Kentucky basketball season. I sense that part of it has to do with a lack of security by many Kentucky fans who won't admit it, who want Pope to do well, but aren't sure. I think there's a lot of people that aren't sure. I think there's a lot of people on the fence. And I think that's psychologically added to this. And I believe this from the bottom of my heart, that that's part of it. But can you think of another year? And forget about the late 80s with the NCAA mess. That's different. I'm talking about what's deemed as a normal year where there's been so many ups and downs, the highs and lows. Oh, this is great. Oh, this is bad. Can you think of one season?
Kind of put me on the spot, but no, not off the top of my head. This has been a peculiar season. I mean, it's been a season of a lot of uncertainty. As I've said on previous shows with you, anything could happen. This team, I don't see them as being a Final Four team. They're not Final Four good. Can they make it to the second weekend? Sure. Yeah, they can. And if they can string together a couple games and play to the best of their capabilities, yeah, they can get to the second weekend. They also could very easily lay an egg and lose to a St. Peter's or an Oakland in the first round. It just really depends on what team you're going to get there. The one thing I can say pretty emphatically, I've seen enough out of Otego away. You're always going to get his best. Now, it may not you're going to get his best effort. At Florida, he didn't do great, but it wasn't for lack of effort. And I think 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a good performance out of him. Denzel Aberdeen has won me over. I think he's going to be a reliable player coming down the stretch. I think Malachi is going to battle very hard. Sometimes he's limited a little bit skill-wise, but he's going to give you a good effort. And Colin Chandler's just turned into an absolute sniper. So I feel good about those components. The rest of them are a little bit of a wild card to me. And then when you bundle it all together, it's what effort are you going to get? And I don't know.
I like that name, Sniper Chandler. I'm super late, Chip. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you, buddy. I hope I didn't make you uncomfortable.
Hey, I've got to give one last shout out.
Please.
My good friend, the coach of the Transylvania basketball team, Brian Lane. He picked up his 400th win last night as a head coach.
Wow.
That's a big milestone. He's a tremendous coach, good friend, and I just want to congratulate him on that milestone.
And how many wins in a row is it? 11?
I don't know that for sure, but I know 400 was his milestone, and that's a big deal.
I started covering him when he was a freshman, starting for his dad, and people would say,
I know.
Only starting because of his dad. No, he was damn good. He walked on the court, was one of the best players on their team. And people are funny. I'll never forget some people call him and say, well, he's only starting because of his dad. Really? Hey, have you watched him play?
He was a great player, and he and his dad were both, in their own right, great basketball coaches. Could have coached anywhere, and they've been just an incredible win for Transylvania University for that program to be under the helm of those guys. I guess going back all the way to right after Lee Rose. So they've been there a while.
Thank you for mentioning that. I should have. I did not. Thank you so much. And the Lane family is just a beautiful family. Just a beautiful.
They are indeed.
Hey, Chip, thank you.
Be well.
Bless
See you
you
soon.
See ya. Chip Rupp. Appreciate his time. A different conversation today. Let's also mention that we do this every day. Terry Page. Not a very good, a great licensed massage therapist, 859-373-0578, 859-373-0578. And she said to me, hey, Alan, how about let's do this for February. First visit, $10 off. Just use the code Cutler. Text her, call her, say, Cutler, I want $10 off. She will give it to you. She's spectacular. In Butler, Kentucky, Monday and Tuesdays. In Lexington, Thursday, and Friday. Check her out. Please use my name. Terry Page, she is special. Brandon Ramsey, I'm late, Brandon, sorry. Brandon Ramsey coming up next. Alan Cutler, 1300 AM, 92.5 FM.
No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler, brought to you by Quantrell Auto Group. QuantrellForLife.com.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler. Have a no filter comment? Hit the text line, 859-381-1313. 859-381-1313.
Hey, I'm Dale Wise. I've just recently retired. I know that the electronics, if you don't keep up with it, it can get away from you and get real confusing. Republic Bank's app, I use their app, and it is so easy to use. I log in with my fingerprint, so it's super easy. I don't have to remember 50 million different passwords and all that stuff. And it lays it out just real nice.
That's Dale's story. Now let's get to work on yours. Republic Bank. Time to thrive. Member FDIC. Data rates may apply.
Hi, this is Alan Cutler, and I've spent years on these roads, and safety isn't a slogan to me, it's real life. That's one reason I trust Volvo. Quantrell Volvo has been part of this community for years. Brentley and Mark are friends of mine, and they run the dealership the right way with care, integrity, and real respect for the people they serve. If safety, smart design, and peace of mind matter to you, start your search at Quantrell Volvo. We have the XC60, the hybrid. We love it. Best car we've had in 43 years, and it is really smooth, and we're saving money on the gas. Right now, get financing as low as 0.99% APR for 36 months on most 2026 models. Visit QuantrellVolvo.com. See dealer for details.
Back to No Filter Radio with Alan Cutler. Podcasts on Apple, Spotify, and Google, Monday through Friday.
Welcome back. Alan Cutler, 1300 AM, 92.5 FM. We go from sharp shooting Jim Master to one of the great Kentuckians for the University of Kentucky, Jim Master 2, Chip Rupp, now a coach who now has his beard so full. If you thought, if you're watching on YouTube, that he just came from Amish country, you would be close to correct. You really, I mean, you have the look, Brandon. I mean, people in Amish country, they have basketball coaches too, right? I mean, you could get a head coaching job there right away, no?
Absolutely. And I kind of live in Amish country. There's a lot of Amish folks around where I live, so I might fit right in.
You're being serious.
Yes, absolutely.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Interesting. Have you had any interactions with some Amish folks?
Honestly, no. I mean, I passed the horse and buggies on the road, but otherwise, no, not a whole lot of personal interactions besides probably building a barn at my parents' house at some point or something like that. But there are a lot of them in this area, kind of East Central Indiana. Quite a few Amish folks.
All right. Where the hell is this basketball team? Let's just come on, man. You're a coach. You do all this great stuff for KSR. You got the podcast and this and that and the other, which will make sure you get a good plug in because you deserve it. But that's not the point. What the hell is this basketball team? This is the main question I'm throwing to everybody. In my limited experience going back to the early 1980s, limited, right? I have never seen a year like this, so much up and down. Psychologically speaking, as much as people want Pope to succeed for all the obvious reasons, okay? And they want, unless you're Billy Gillespie, I think at the end people didn't want him to succeed. They want him out. I'm not going that far. But the point is, I think there's a lot of people on the fence with him, so therefore they don't trust him as they did early with Cal. And I think that has a lot to do, psychologically speaking, with the ups and downs with Kentucky fans. I've never experienced a season like this. I got some fire Popes after the other day. I thought we were past that. Apparently not. Some pretty strong direct messages, not that it would surprise you or anybody listening. And I thought, really? Really? And I've never been in that camp. Then I just haven't. That's not the point. The point is, I think because there are people on the fence, and now the record is worse than it was last year at the same time, a smidgen worse, but still worse. I just have never seen ups and downs like this. What say you?
It's certainly been a roller coaster. There's no doubt about it. And I got plenty of the same comments and messages I think that you did in terms of, like we immediately went back to some of the fire Pope talk. We immediately went back to the, are we going to make the NCAA tournament talk? All these different things after losing at home to Georgia. And some of it, I get it. The standards are different than what we're experiencing currently at Kentucky. And there's no way around that. Like this team is obviously not living up anywhere near their preseason expectations. They're not living up to the expectations that Big Blue Nation has for Kentucky on a year in, year out basis. But quite frankly, just looking at this team as they are within the season, they still just kind of remain who I've honestly thought they've been for quite a while now. They are a good but not great basketball team. Kentucky fans don't accept that very well. They're not used to that, quite frankly. But this is what life as the 25th best team in the country is like. You see a lot of ups and downs. You see big deficits and big comebacks. You see your team not show up on certain nights, and then you see them go out and sweep Tennessee and beat Arkansas at Arkansas and have some really impressive performances. And then you see them not show up in games like Gonzaga or Alabama, Michigan State, whatever it may be. That's what life is like, I think, for other teams that are like Kentucky this season in terms of success, talent, whatever, however you want to measure it. It's just not something that we're super familiar with, and certainly not something that we handle very well as a fan base. So it impacts us a lot. But I think that when you're the 25th best team in the country, this is kind of what life is like, and we're experiencing that with some of these bad losses at home, Missouri, Georgia. Those aren't things that we handle well in this fan base. But then you go on the road, you beat Tennessee, you beat Arkansas. Like, I don't know, would we be willing to trade those two wins for these two losses? I don't know. I don't know if we would feel better or worse if that were the case. But you're absolutely right. It's really hard to trust this team because you don't know what you're getting on a night in, night out basis. And I think that with 5 games left, they could win each individual game going forward. They can also lose each individual game going forward. The truth will probably be somewhere in the middle, and we'll see what that gets them on Selection Sunday.
But I think you brought up a very interesting point, and make sure I wrote this down as you said it. Not a very good basketball team. And I think, I'm not putting words in your mouth, Brandon Ramsey. I think you're saying by Kentucky standard.
Right.
And so if you're saying this is not a very good basketball team by Kentucky standards, I think most people would agree with you. And I think that also is part of the reasons with the highs and lows,
Right.
which gets me to the point. If there's 2 more years where somebody like you, who is a basketball expert, if they have a couple more years of not very good, that's not going to bode well for Mark. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that this is the year where you then set some expectations for, certainly next year, and definitely if you're talking about a year 4, yeah, like the leash isn't going to be super long for seasons like this. I think that he got some good grace for year 1 because with how he had to throw that roster together, I think that most people were happy with how the season went, especially with all these top 15 wins, exciting things like that, beating Duke, all these good things, making a Sweet 16. Now this year has been, based on preseason expectations, this year has been a failure. Now I still think this team can do some good things. They've righted the ship a little bit to get to 8-5 in the SEC, but right now it's nowhere near what was expected before the season. And you don't last very many seasons not living up to expectations at Kentucky, especially if the postseason success isn't there, along with a lack of kind of fun within the regular season. I think when you look at having a chance to win the SEC regular season, having a chance to win down in Nashville the SEC tournament, and then competing for Final Fours, like, you have to do those things on a relatively consistent basis, or else your stay is going to be pretty short in Lexington. And I think it's unfair to jump on that right now this season for Coach Pope, but this season could set up some pretty tough conversations in the next year or two.
I buy that. And I think people are going to be watching like crazy. Look, if he doesn't get any of the good freshmen, and they're basically mostly gone, there's only a smidgen left over. And I'm not being negative, but I'm going to guess he won't. But if he loads up with some great transfers in the portal and they have a really good team and it works, to me, what the hell's the difference? That's me, but curious what you think. And then maybe that'll help him get another freshman down the road. Because like I've always said, I got one more. If Malachi and Jasper were from California. There's no way in high hell they'd be here. And so, okay, at least you had a couple kids that were good enough for Kentucky, and you got them, which is good. That's a positive thing. But let's not kid ourselves. So I think there's something over Pope's head when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to, granted, the injuries are important. There's no question about it. You can't negate it. But there's a thing over his head, yet I'm optimistic he might be able to battle through this.
Yeah, I mean, it only takes one, quite frankly, like it to kind of get the snowball rolling. And nowadays, like you said, that doesn't even necessarily have to be super talented freshmen. Now, that is still obviously part of the equation. And when you look at this past class, man, would it sure be nice to have some of these elite freshmen that are just blowing up across college basketball. But not every class is created equal. And I think that there's really three different elements to recruiting now in modern time. There's obviously recruiting high school kids, just like we've always had, but then there's the transfer portal, and then quite frankly, there's retaining and recruiting your own players. This is a threefold process now. And I think Kentucky's in a position to potentially retain some pieces that we'll be excited about. And then, and really, there's a fourth piece is that then you have international stuff. So, like, if you go land one international kid that's a game changer, you get two or three guys out of the transfer portal. Like, I don't really care where the players come from. If it's international, if it's your own team, if it's transfer portal, if it's high school, it's all about building the best roster. And I think ultimately most Kentucky fans would agree with that. We're just used to having some five-star freshmen to be excited about along the way, whereas the way things are trending now, we're going to be building this roster later in the process. But that doesn't mean that it can't be a really good roster because quite frankly, I think in this next class, people are going to have success via retaining their own guys and going to the portal more so than seeing, 15, 20 kids from the class of 2026 make this massive impact as freshmen in college basketball next season.
Yeah, I don't care where they come from. If he gets a good roster, you get a good roster. A lot of ways to skin a cat. Hubbard had only 35 points at the half last night for Mississippi State. I love him as a player. He didn't have a great game here. He had 9 rebounds. And he doesn't stand 6 feet with the tallest sneakers you could wear on the court. And I'm going, I was a little surprised he went back to Mississippi State, excuse me. You would have a lot more information on this. It would seem to me that Mississippi State doesn't have $4 million to pay him next year. If it's me, he might be my top target.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that you can't hardly hand pick a guy that I would be more excited to see in a Coach Pope offense or in a Kentucky uniform next season than Josh Hubbard. Because, I mean, he's a guy that's going to come in like he's going to make 100+ threes for you at a pretty high percentage. That is something that Kentucky has not seen from the point guard position, quite frankly. Even going back to the Cal days, like having that level of shooting for a guy that has the ball in his hands so much, it's such a valuable weapon to have offensively, and especially if you can then put some more talent around him at a place like Kentucky than you did at Mississippi State. Yeah, it'll be really interesting. I mean, I'm with you. I'm a little surprised they were able to retain him sophomore to junior season. I would have to think that there's going to be probably, I'm sure there already is a ton of back channeling going on and some pretty lucrative checks being tossed around in terms of what he is going to be worth. Because if he were to enter the portal, I would have to think he would immediately become one of, if not the most sought after player in the country.
Because if he was 6'4", he'd be going to the NBA, maybe as a lotto pick.
He'd probably already be in the NBA if he was 6'4". Yeah, he would have gone last season.
As a matter of fact, somebody at Mississippi State told me that he would be in the NBA. But I just look at him, and as you know, because I've been pretty close to him, he looks like he's well built on TV. He looks like a football player. He looks like he could be one heck of a cornerback. He's got great feet. His movability, how he moves. I look at him and go, there's a all-pro potential cornerback. I looked at him, and you put him on next year's team if Chandler comes back and if Johnson comes back. You take a look at this, and all of a sudden you might have 3 guys, and you can play them all together. And I don't know what Jasper's going to do. That's going to be very interesting if he comes back. And all of a sudden this could be, one guy adding to what's here already if Chandler comes back. could turn this into a more of a Pope-like kind of team.
Absolutely, and it's one of the things I talk about a lot. I think when you look at shooting, especially, I always want to see teams be able to increase their shooting volume by having your primary ball handler be able to shoot. That's something that Kentucky hasn't necessarily had at a super high level the last couple of years under Coach Pope, with Lamont Butler, who was a good but not prolific three-point shooter. And then this year, obviously, you brought in Jalen Lowe. That didn't work out. Now you have Denzel Aberdeen, who, again, is a good but not super prolific shooter. I think if you have a guy like Hubbard who can create his own threes, that changes the game offensively. And then the four spot, if you have a guy who can pick and pop some and get some threes up that way with some mismatches in the front court, to me, those are the two ways that you really increase volume. Like, there's only so much you can do running plays for Colin Chandler. People are going to pick up on that and chase him around. But if you have a ball handler and a four-man that can really shoot, I think those will be two areas that this team will really have to focus on in the offseason.
This crazy team, there are times have been very tough. You don't win at Tennessee without being tough. You don't go to Arkansas without being tough. But there are times they're really soft. Now, Goose this morning with Tom Leach said he needs to see a tougher-minded team. I use the word soft. I thought they were very soft the other day. That doesn't mean they can't be really tough against Auburn. But if I'm a young Pearl, the head coach, I'm going to say, hit him. I don't mean start a fight. You know what I'm saying? Hit him physically. Hit him, hit him, hit him, hit him. I got about a minute. They were soft, but one game might have nothing to do with the next. Were they as soft to you as I thought and Jack Gibbons thought?
They certainly were, especially in the last 30 minutes or so of that game. I mean, I've written about it in a few different platforms. I mean, Santos Surreal manhandled Kentucky's. I mean, to talk about a guy like, he plays with like a violence about him, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all. Like, he goes up and just dunks that thing with two hands, and he plays so hard and so strong. Like, I would put our guys in the film room and just make them watch him on a loop in terms of what you're looking to get out of this front court, as Malachi gets older, gets stronger, different things. But yeah, it's going to be two desperate teams, I think, on Saturday. Auburn's lost 5 in a row now, hanging on for their NCAA life. Obviously Kentucky now losing 2 straight, 3 of the last 6. They're looking to right the ship with some tough games coming down the stretch here. So it's going to be two teams that you would sure hope but neither coach would have to worry about effort from their team, because both of these teams really need a win on Saturday.
Coach Brandon Ramsey, also of KSR. You do a million different things. Give yourself a plug that your mother would say, that's my boy.
Thanks, Alan. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at BRamseyKSR. All the written work goes on KentuckySportsRadio.com. Also host a YouTube show on the Kentucky Sports Radio YouTube channel with Zach Gagan, so go subscribe to that. Also subscribe to the Brandon Ramsey College Basketball Show on YouTube. And again, all that work gets promoted through my Twitter at BRamseyKSR.
Dude, as always, thank you for your time. Have a great basketball weekend. Catch you down the road. And again, appreciate your knowledge.
Absolutely. Anytime, Alan. Thank you.
Brandon Ramsey. Jimmy, he knows his stuff. He's really, really, really good. He's really, really, what a show. Jim Master, wonderful. Chip Rupp, wonderful. Brandon Ramsey, wonderful. Next time I'll talk to you will be March 2nd, Monday. I'm taking a little R&R that I need. I just want to continue to say thank you to everybody who listens, everyone who listens and tells a friend. Our online numbers and podcast numbers continue to go up thanks to you, and people listening on 1300 are going up. So thank you so much, Jimmy. Enjoy the No Cutler week. Enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it.
I'll do my best.
I trust that you will. Jimmy, as always, I appreciate you tremendously. Sean, thank you for all your help too. Hey, have a great day. Brad Taylor coming up next. Matthew and Jimmy at 10. I'm guessing ESPN Radio tomorrow at noon, then Brad Taylor at 2. Have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in.